What's wrong with these left-handed shears? These were sent to me by a sharpener. He said they passed all his sharpening tests. He cut wet tissue, he cut hair with it, and when he gave them to the stylist, she said, no, they don't cut. They just roll the hair. So he sent them to me, and we're going to look at them and see, is it her or is it him? Let's take a look at these a little closer. Alright, so the first thing I'm noticing on these, and before we even test him, and he said that there was some problems with the ride line before he got a hold of them, is look at this. I think you can see that in this light here. Yeah, there we go. You see you got to ride up the back, ride up the front, and it's like wavy. That's this blade. And then look at that one. Same kind of a situation. Now these are ISSA shears. So these are made in the United States. I'm thinking they are. This looks like, I think they imported a few of them from other places, because that crisp ledge, most of the ISSA shears I've seen that were actually made by them are going to have, now this is made by Ramon Eichert, so it would have been, you know, like the ISSA Eichert. And you see how this has like a, it doesn't have that crisp ledge, it has a more of an unfinished look. So even though it's made by ISSA Eichert, let's see what it says. Does it say USA made? It just says warranty and it has a model number. So I'm wondering if these really were made in the factory here in the United States. Typically the ISSA Eichert shears were easy to sharpen. So, but this one, the ride line is all over the place. So let's see if it cuts. First of all, what I notice, it just feels rough. Let me see if you can, I think you can hear it. Listen. Hear that noise? They're a little bit on the tight side too. But let's see how they cut. He said for him they cut wet tissue and hair. So here's some tissue. I'm going to try it with, really, if you don't use any pressure, if there's no side pressure, it doesn't really matter if you're cutting with your right hand or your left hand. It's probably better to do it with your left hand, but I'm going to try it both ways. So here's my right hand, dry tissue, cuts good. Here's my left hand, dry tissue, and I'm pulling my thumb out. Cuts good. Let's see how it does wet. My thumb's out. Cuts wet. We got all kinds of things going on here today. They're blowing the leaves away, and Misty and Jay are in the front office. So if you hear noises back there, that's what's going on. I didn't bring Bo today. He got out yesterday on the way to work, and I ended up having to chase him. So he stayed at home today. So it's cutting wet. It's cutting dry. Let's see how it does with hair. And she said it was folding the hair. It's pushing a little bit, but it's not folding the hair. Now, in the past, I've had some issues where people said their shears are folding, and I couldn't get it to fold. But what I did is I took some tissue, and I made it thicker, like they're cutting thick hair, wet it, Let's do this with the left hand here. That's cutting, even the thick tissue. So that's cutting. I've had some where when they're cutting something thick, they'll fold, but they're not folding. Let's try it for cutting a bunch of hair. And let's say we're holding it with a crab grip, which would simulate me holding it in my right hand. I really can't get it to fold. Even holding it in my right hand and holding the wrong grip on it. Now I see things wrong with this shear. But it's cutting. It's cutting, even in my right hand. In my left hand. Let's see if I'm holding my left hand like some of them will hold it. It pushes a little bit, but it's definitely not rolling, or, well, if I'm putting extra crab grip like a lefty might do if they were holding a right-handed shear, it is pushing a little bit. So I think the problem is the stylist. I'm kind of curious. I really understand what's going on here. These, look like they passed the cut test, but I don't like the way they look. So let's go ahead and resharpen them anyway and see if there's anything I notice. I've gotten pretty good at feeling with my finger what sharpness, what angle these are at. Typically ISSA shears, just because I've trained in their factory with Casper Kaiser, and we've got a lot of videos by him. I know that they're doing all their shears, or did back then, because they're no longer making shears in the States, at a 45-degree angle. So that's the angle it should be. But I'm seeing some out of alignment things. But I've learned just from experience that if the out of alignment matches, so this area is low, this area is high right here. So on this one, see, it's the opposite. So it's sort of out of alignment, but they're out of alignment together. If it works, don't fix it. But I don't know. Let's go ahead and resharpen it and see if at least it's quieter and feels better. The number one thing that you're going to see is if you see a ride line that is just kind of all over the place. And typically when you start working the ride line, you'll see that. If you put a red Sharpie on there, you can immediately see if you're out of alignment. And then you can choose whether you want to hammer, bend, or keep working the ride line till it's ugly like these, but the shear is cut. So we're going to work this ride line a little bit more because there are some areas that are wimpy. I think the ride line is non-existent, and I think it'll make it cut better. And then I'm going to check it and make sure this really is a 45-degree angle. Maybe a little sharper will fix the problem. So my first job is to clean them off and to put a red Sharpie on it. I can tell because there's some red left behind that he used the red Sharpie on these. One complaint I might say is to make sure you get all the red Sharpie off before you give them back to the hairstylist, because there's still some here, and because they'll think it's blood. So let's see what happens to the rod line. I'm going to grab my, this is my 2000 grit Nano. Wet it pretty good. Got a little bit of soap in my waters, you see. And because these are lefties, I'm not going on this side. I'm going on this opposite side. The pressure is still on my pivot. And I can almost feel like a smoothness. I'm going up and down till I feel this smoothness. Well, gee, look, nothing came off. Nothing. What is going on? Yeah, there's definitely some issue going on. Because nothing, and I knew it wasn't feeling smooth. I'm wondering if this sharpener, or maybe the sharpener before him, worked the ride line without putting the pressure here and worked it out there. And that is why we're seeing the ride line on the back side. Because see, that's ride line's coming up even more on the back side. Wow, these are mysteries, aren't they? I mean, nothing's coming off. Let's try the other blade. I'm starting to think, am I doing something wrong? Something crazy here? Put a comment below if you've ever come across something like this. Well, now this one's coming off. You see that? I've got a ride line all the way down. It's not, it's wavy. It's like ocean. We'll call these ocean ride lines. A wavy hone. Yeah. Tips wiped out. Ride line is kind of like, woo, but it's there. This one, I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to go to something a little bit more aggressive. Now this is a stone we sell. This is the DMT 8000 grit diamond stone. And I don't use it very often, but I like it for situations like this. Now it's 8000 grit, where this is 2000 grit. But being diamond, it's a lot more aggressive. And using a little bit of soapy water on it, actually the DMT people told me that was the best way to use it. And I'm going to see if I can get some kind of ride on this. Pressure is here. My fingers are touching out here, but my pressure is here. I don't know if I've used this on any video, but I've never come across this on any video. I've never seen this before. Just barely. And look how it's coming off the back here. Is it twisted? This is just bizarre. Starting to get a little ride here, a little bit there. But nothing there, there, or there. But it's a huge ride on the back. Oh, I'm sure I'm going to get some ugly comments and thumbs down on this. I'm sure there's some kind of a twisting that needs to be done on this shear. But this isn't my shear. Because this has to be, that blade has to be like up high, higher on the back than on the front to be getting this kind of a thing. Now maybe the person that sharpened it held it this way and they pushed back as they were working it instead of on their left hand. Man, this is putting in a lot of work for me. Do I have a stone that's more aggressive than this? It's a 200 grit stone compared to 8,000. I'm just going to do just a few strokes on this one. Yeah, I got it everywhere but right there. My pressure's still on my pivot, but I'm going to put a little extra pressure right there at that spot. Nope, still. And we're going to need a follow-up video from this sharpener of how his customer likes it. That looks awful. Sometimes you work the corner and don't do any more to the tip because that tip is looking terrible. Okay, let's get rid of that one. And get rid of this one. And then back to my 2000. And that's got to be the worst looking ride line I have seen in my 30 years of sharpening. That is crazy looking. Looks like it needs to be twisted in. But I don't want to break it. If I didn't know better, I would think these are made in some third world country. I won't say where. Yeah, I got a ride line up on this side, but not on the cutting edge there of that tip. I'm puzzling this out. Really like to bend these a little bit, but I'm scared to. Now that might have a hint of a ride line. Let's put it together, let's sharpen it and see what happens. I want to cover up my stone. I set my angle at 45 and see if they are 45. I put my detente at 45 so that I can back off. And if you're using a Cymek, the way we do the left-handed shears, this comes off. And you really shouldn't let your machine get as dirty as mine is. Look at the crud. Now I can put this in on this side if I like. And I'm going to come in from here. Let's just do a scratch test. And usually when I see a ride line this crazy, I might not try to do it at a 45-degree angle. .45 is the right angle. So I don't need anything as aggressive as this because I don't have to change the angles. Let's see what we've got. Here's a fresh 800. This would be kind of equivalent to maybe a 30 or 40 micron. So now it's really important that I go lefty, counterclockwise. I'm going to go at a slow speed so I know what I'm doing. Man, that's got to be the ugliest ride line I've ever seen in my life. And I hope he doesn't show people and say, hey, this is the sharpening Bonnie did. Look at this ride line. She's horrible. Don't use her as a teacher. Sometimes all you can do is deal with what is sent to you. This is why on receipts, if you're going behind another sharpener, you may want to make notes in your computer or whatever that you were behind it, you know, you are repairing work from another sharpener. Typically we give a 30-day satisfaction guarantee on our sharpening, but not if we're correcting somebody else's sharpening. Now if I'm working here for Sharpeners and I'm showing you what I'm doing, and I'm not doing anything different, I don't think, than what he did, except I might have worked the ride line a little bit more aggressively. Don't quite have a burr at the tip. This burr just has to be teensy, teensy, teensy. So now I want to knock off my burr on my stone. I do it twice because it seems like I don't feel it coming off. I don't feel it smooth. It's almost a feeling thing. Okay. Got that burr off. Where's my Nagura stone? Walked away from me, didn't it? Here's where I keep all my things, or try to keep them all together. Throw it all back in here. I've lost my Nagura stone. Always something. Oh, there it is. Way over here. In our old office, when we were in Duluth, we had an elf, or a little hobgoblin, or whatever. We called him Hopkins, that used to come and move things. So, I don't know if Hopkins has come with us, and he moves things around on my desk, or I'm just a general slob and not putting things back where they belong, which is probably that. But we can blame Hopkins. He was like a little leprechaun with a red-headed, so maybe it's me. Alright, so now I'm taking this off. I'm putting my polishing pad on, which I've kept in plastic to keep it somewhat clean. And this already has diamond spray on it. You know, I have a lot of people that buy a huge amount of diamond spray, and I don't use that much. I think this is like the third bottle of diamond spray ever I gave myself. But just occasionally I squirt it on because the diamond spray is really not going anywhere. And then you go a little bit faster and apply the polish. I find that both things together works better than either one by themselves. And now I want to adjust my detente so that where I'm at 45 degree, I'm going to move it up to maybe about 47. Now these are discontinued shears, and that's another reason I didn't want to try to bend them or anything, because these cannot be replaced. They're no longer made. So I don't want to get in that situation where, oh, they were my favorite shears. My auntie who just died of COVID gave them to me when I graduated from beauty school, and you broke them. So I don't want to get in that situation. Well, that looks pretty. And it's going to be hard to tell whether they cut better because they didn't cut that bad to begin with. But what I'm looking for is, are they smoother, quieter? And then I'm just going to have to hear back from the sharpener whether the stylists like them better. So probably the only thing I'm doing differently than he did is I was a lot more aggressive with the Rideline and not letting it bother me too much if the Rideline was just crazy doodle. I'm going to go ahead and move this back around so I'll be ready for my right-handed shear. And you see, that's all that needs to be done to change from right-handed to left-handed shears. So let's clean these off. I want to make sure I get all that red Sharpie off this time. This is an Ugly Rideline. They ask who sharpened these. You don't know. Somebody went out on the sidewalk and sharpened these or something. We had a guy, we hired him because he's passed away now, so I guess I can talk about him. But we hired him because, you know, he needed the money, and we used him to, when our new shears came in, we used him to test our shears, and we gave him one of our Bonika shirts, but never taught him how to sharpen, and, you know, just kind of showed him some rudimentary things about shears. From what I understand, he was homeless. He kind of lived at the Waffle House, and maybe he'd go for, you know, and one of our other sharpeners told us about him and asked us to help him out, and we said, yeah, we'll help him out. Well, make a long story short while I'm putting these together, is he went out because he had one of our Bonika shirts and would tell people, now the Iker screws, as far as I know, have always had like 2 washers on them. That's just been typical, so I'm going to put both those washers back in place. I think they told me one time it gave him a little softer feel. But he had a Bonika shirt, and he would go to the salons, and I was told by the salons that he told them it was $60 to sharpen, which is just unheard of, even especially back then. And they would give it to him because Bonika has such a good reputation. And because he didn't have any machine or have anything, he would just go out and scrape them on the sidewalk. And then hand them back, get his money, and go. He had a drug problem that we were aware of, but we thought he was in rehab with it, and that's one of the reasons we're helping him. And so, you know, we contacted the police, and the police said, you know, impersonating us, it would have to be the hair salon that would have to complain, not us. So, but it kind of messed up our reputation there for a while. Now, I don't want to close them yet till I close them on either a paper towel or a double tissue, because I've probably got some burr left behind. So here's the paper towel, and I'm cutting with my left hand, and I'm cutting any residual burr off I might have left. And let's check the adjustment on them. I think a little bit looser. What you think? And the adjustment is important because if they're too loose, they are going to fold hair. But you want them to move a little bit. Now you remember how they sounded before. They have a little bit of noise, but not quite as much. And that noise is at the tip where we had the problem. Let's see how they cut. And they cut good before, but let's see if they cut better. So here's my single ply toilet tissue. And if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and put comments below, things you'd like to see. And I have a lot of other videos on my channel. And then, of course, our website, we've got, you know, all kinds of things for sharpeners. Now I'm amazed that that tip cuts it all. Let's see if I can pull my thumb out so it's the least pressure possible. Kind of stuck to the blade, but it cut. Let's see how it cuts hair. Definitely feels better. It's just so hard to hold these in my left hand, but I will. Yeah, they feel better. Remember they pushed before when I cut with my left hand? There's a little pushing, but not much, not as much. Pushing back here. Oh, did you see that? Did you see it flip? I was able to get it to flip. So, I've got these what I consider better, but I don't think they're substantially better. I was able to get them to flip like I just did. You know, I don't know what to say. It's not anything. I don't think he put that crazy ride line on there. I still see some red Sharpie. Remember I told you to make sure you get it all off. If you have trouble getting red Sharpie off, if you lay it down and then get a rag, like a microfiber rag, and because you don't want to cut yourself, and sort of work that area. Yeah, we're good on that side. So I'm going to send them back. I'll let you know in one of the comments what the customer said about them, if they're any better. Sometimes, you know, if you get a shear end that's got this kind of a rod line, you need to walk away from it or explain to the customer you may not be able to fix it. I couldn't do it because it came from a sharpener and he was wanting me to see what I could do with it. Always inspect a shear before you start to sharpen it, because this is one I think you should have walked away from, because I don't think he's the one that put that ride line on there. I have no idea. Maybe it came from the factory that way. You know, Arius Eicher toward the end when some of the shears were imported, not made in the USA, and I'm kind of suspecting that. So, and there's also knockoffs, you know. So I mean, there's that too as well. I don't know, but that's got to be the ugliest rod line I have ever seen on a shear. Put a comment below if you've ever seen anything look worse than this. I think my little elf Hopkins came in and sharpened these before I got a hold of them. What you think? The little evil elf Hopkins. The evil. And he's not a Christmas elf.